Welcome to today's Experience training. Today we're going to be talking about Illuminate. And specifically, under the heading of Illuminate, we're going to talk about the case for education. So I got to take you back to my house real quick because I have 4 sons and there is a nightly battle in our home about homework. And it's not just subject by subject, it's question by question. Dad, why does this matter? So the question that I would have for you is that, you've done a lot to prepare yourself to be where you are right now. You've done a lot to be ready for this moment, but would you be willing and hungry enough to learn more? That's really what homework boils down to. Do you want to be ready for the next test? Well, let's begin with what makes education possible and what education makes possible. And then I'm going to talk you through an analogy, just maybe to bring it all together. So let's talk about the case for education. Number one, the first thing that education makes possible is confidence. It's why the teaching takes place before the test. It equips and it instills belief. I can do this. I'm ready. And the number 2 thing we would talk about would be competence. Everything begins at 0. So the more you learn, the better you become. Mastery of the fundamentals has to happen before you add in the flourishes. And the greater the understanding, the greater the innovation, the more you can add to something that's already good and make it great. And then number 3, education helps you to uncover and unlock potential. You don't know what you don't know. And how can you develop a passion and innovate without an introduction to something new? What if Bill Gates had never been introduced to a calculator? What if Tom Brady had never been handed a football? How can they become great in something until they have experienced it, met it, had an opportunity to fall in love with and develop a passion for it? So confidence, competence, and potential are all the byproducts of education. So here's the analogy. I have a smartphone, right? I have a smartphone, and if I were to wipe every app from my smartphone, every function except the power button, what would it be? Well, it would be a smartphone. Really? It's not a phone. It has no potential except to turn on and turn off. So why does Apple send the phone to us as the users with certain capabilities? Well, the answer is because they're the basics. Well, that's education. They're the basics, the fundamentals. These are the things that most people will use. And most of what is automatically included in a smartphone coming out the box, they're the basics. For us, that is the process of establishing fundamentals. And then it's about knowing what has to be present to be able to be called a smartphone. It's got to be able to make calls. It's got to be able to do basic computing, right? But then ask the question, why do we need to add apps? Well, we add apps to meet a need. Some apps become foundational. Some apps are recreational. Some apps are added because of our environment. Our kids get hold of our phone. Our bosses add things to our lives. And when bosses add things to our lives, we have to receive education to employ it and to do it well. So do you see the connection? Without education, without the ability to add knowledge, what are we? The people who make smartphones are forever creating a better smartphone. Why? Competition. Your leadership is committed to keeping you relevant in a marketplace, in a competitive marketplace. Just like Apple's got to keep making better phones, your leadership are committed to helping you win. Your leadership, their desire for you is that you be confident, that you be competent. Their desire is to unlock your potential, to make the most of who you are, where you are, and the time you've been given. That is the case for education.